We have Parker Malloy, editor-at-large for Media Matters for America. Hi, Parker, it's always great to have you.
Hey, it's great to be here.
And we've been on the damage report together, but I don't think we've ever done like a one-on-one together, so I'm excited about this.
Yeah, definitely.
And let's get right into it with Facebook. There's a lot to talk about. What a day, what a week for Mark Zuckerberg, I guess, and for the rest of us, unfortunately. So he's been in the news a lot over this entire week, almost every day this week, it seems. And a lot of it is about his relationship with conservatives. We've learned a lot. It kind of started with us finding out he was having these secret meetings with GOP politicians and people like Tucker Carlson. And also so far that he has agreed for an exclusive interview on Fox News with a Fox host. What were your thoughts this week, just kind of following this?
Sure. Well, one of the things I've written about this quite a few times, the general Facebook bias kind of question. And one thing we've done at Media Matters is time and again, we've done these, we've done actual research into this, and conservative pages perform just as well, if not better, than left-leaning pages. And that's just, there's indisputable evidence of that. There's no evidence that shows that there's bias against conservatives, but conservatives will call Zuckerberg in to testify before Congress and have Diamond and Silk there for some reason, and all of that. So they're doing this thing where they're playing the refs. They're constantly claiming that there's bias when there really just isn't, or there is no evidence of it. So that's something that's frustrating to watch, because it seems like time and again what happens with these tech companies and Facebook, Twitter, any of these, Google, same thing. They kind of cave to conservative pressure, because you don't see that happen on the left quite so much. One thing that you'll sort of see is, for instance, there was, I recently wrote a piece about Prager University, the fake university. And one of the things that they keep pushing is this idea that because some of their videos are hidden behind the explicit content firewall or whatever that 2% of YouTube users use, that was bias against them. But then there was sort of a study that showed that, for instance, the Young Turks has a higher percentage, which is really interesting. But yet you're not running a bunch of programming saying that they're biased against you. So it's the same thing with all of these companies. It's the same play over and over. And Facebook, I think, is the biggest and most consequential one of them, because in 2016, they really dropped the ball. What happened was there was a Gizmodo article that came out saying that that people were suppressing conservative viewpoints, and it was really just one or two people's opinions. And what ended up happening was Zuckerberg met with a bunch of conservatives immediately after, people like Tucker Carlson and Dana Perino, who he'll be speaking with tomorrow. So he did that. And then what ended up happening was they got rid of the human editors. They left it all up to an algorithm, and immediately it started trending fake news, like actual fake news, fake stories about how the Pope endorsed Trump and Megyn Kelly endorsed Hillary, all of these stories that were just complete nonsense. It muddied the waters for the election. And it was something that came out of these meetings that Zuckerberg had exclusively with conservatives. And that's one thing that constantly keeps happening. He keeps meeting just with them. For instance, when they rolled out their fact-checking partnerships, they had something like PolitiFact, Snopes, factcheck.org, and the Associated Press and ABC News. And what happened was immediately conservatives started complaining. They were saying these are all left-leaning fact checkers, which is kind of ridiculous. So what Facebook ended up doing was they let the Weekly Standard join their fact-checking group, and then they let the Daily Caller join the fact-checking group earlier this year. Things keep moving. They keep moving the goalposts. They keep wanting more and more and more. And part of what I wrote about earlier this week was just this idea that there is nothing that Mark Zuckerberg can do to appease them. After 2016, he handed them a gift. He handed them a 2016 gift, basically, and they immediately come back and say, why are you being biased against us? And it's never going to stop. And I wish people would understand that. But then his speech that he gave today.
Let's get into it.
It's not inspiring a lot of confidence.
So this is something that I always think about. I think like people have this idea when talking about media executives, talking about the tech industry. And I think anything that's like innovative and smart, there is just this immediate idea like, oh, they're a leftist. Oh, they're this. And a lot of times when people talk about Mark Zuckerberg, it's like, no, so he's very liberal, but. And it's like the first time you heard Rupert Murdoch say anything, it's like, oh yeah, well that makes sense. And I wonder how much of this is just that like he's afraid of them and he wants their business, and if he just is them, and this is a person who has these same beliefs and feels passionate about this and is walking like a conservative, talking like a conservative, only speaking to conservatives because he is, and because it's not just, he's not only like having conversations with people who feel differently than maybe you or I do about taxes. He's talking to white nationalists. He's talking to like open racists and homophobes. This is stronger than just like, oh, people have different political ideologies, right?
Yeah, I feel like there's definitely this view that people have that these tech CEOs are all super far left, but they're billionaires. Right. They're unfortunately, well, for the sake of funding progressive movements, there are not too many super lefty billionaires out there, which maybe is a good thing. I don't know. So you've got this. Maybe they have socially liberal views on things, but as that recording came out, what was this earlier in the month, I think, where it was Zuckerberg talking about how an Elizabeth Warren presidency would be disastrous for Facebook, and if she actually was able to, break them up, of course it would be, and. So that's something that comes up, and I think that it's really hard to make these arguments that these are left-leaning people. Or at best centrists, but when it comes down to it, it's better for their business, and I think that that's what matters. That they pander to conservatives. There's really no incentive to pander to the left. No one's afraid of the left.
Like
everyone's afraid of the
night,
right.
I guess. I don't know.
Yeah,
right. You can buy sleep, I guess. All right, let's switch off Facebook because we just have a couple minutes left, and I want to get your thoughts on something that everyone has been talking about last week. And at the end of the Democratic debate, there was this question that people are calling the Ellen question, but really it was like, hey, normalize the idea of working with people who are not just different from you. We're not talking about like black people working with white people. We're talking about people who are normal and people who believe certain identities shouldn't have civil rights. And normalize that for me. That's kind of how like a lot of people are taking the question. And I saw you kind of tweeting about this and having to break that down and explain to people that there's a difference between like this person deserving the same civil rights as this person and this person disagreeing about like something simple.
Oh yeah, of course. It's that. I'm not even going to try to quote it, but it's that James Baldwin quote about something like respecting humanity. It's okay to have differences if it's just a matter of opinion. It's okay to have differences if we're talking about how we think taxes should be spent 1 year, or how we think, what very specific version of a policy we think about, or what our favorite Star Wars movie is, something like that. But when it comes down to things like civil rights, I don't know how you bridge that gap. I don't know how you bridge the gap with someone who doesn't think that you deserve rights or that you're not fully a person. And that's something that I think comes up a lot. And with George W. Bush, especially, he was the president. He's not your uncle. He's not your coworker that you're friendly with. That's different than someone who is in a huge position of power. who has implemented policies that will affect us for generations to come. And I really think that a lot of people like to have that sort of feeling where they can say, look, we all get along, and this is what America's all about. We can all disagree, but we can all still get along. But the truth is that we all can't. Some people, there are a lot of people who aren't alive because of things that happened during the Bush presidency. They can't get along with anybody. And so that's sort of the stuff that we have to take into consideration when we're looking at how we rehabilitate people's careers. And I worry. People talk about, oh, well, when Trump's out of office, he's going to be a total pariah. I don't know if he will. I think he's going to probably get the George Bush treatment, and we're going to go, oh, well, look at him. He was always kind of exaggerating, and he'll be treated like our weird uncle. But he's the president. George W. Bush was the president. These things have real impact on people, and I think that some of that sort of speaks to this idea of politics as a game, as we're rooting for two different teams, not pushing for different policies that could affect our lives in gigantic ways.
I completely agree. Now, I think that there's certain things that we have to stop calling politics. Certain things that are just against basic humanity aren't necessarily politics. Parker Malloy, editor-at-large for Media Matters for America. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. We really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.